cloud server. Here we go. We are recording. And the breezes are just emitting, so that's all good. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is the Royal Leamington Yacht Club's presentation on lockdown Wednesday of the 20th of January 2021. My name's Hugh Stiles. I'm the head coach for the Royal Leamington Junior section, and we have a fantastic talk for you this evening. It's courtesy of help from team Ineos Team UK, and the presentation is around the 36th America's Cup. Miles Seddon's helping with a bit of logistics in the background, so without any further ado, we will press on. Thank you, Miles.
Hello everyone, back in Leamington Yacht Club. Hugh, thanks for inviting me to say hi. Great to know all you guys and the kids back there are getting into the America's Cup. I know it's tough times with lockdown and COVID's continuing, but I hope you're all getting through it okay. Summer's coming, so hopefully better times are ahead. But down here in New Zealand, we're full steam ahead with the America's Cup. I'm sure those of you following saw that we had our first weekend of racing, proper racing in the Prada Cup last weekend, and it went really well for us. We had 4 races and 4 wins, which is obviously as well as we could have expected to have done. And having had a really torrid time before Christmas, we were really struggling, particularly with some drag issues on our wings and on our foils. You know, and at the time we were struggling to win a single race. Well, in fact, we didn't in any of the organised events before Christmas. So it's still really early days, and I think that's very much the mentality here. It's great that we've won 4, but it means very, very little at the moment. We're still a long, long way to go if we want to do well in this tournament. To even get through to the final of the Prada Cup, let alone even start thinking about the America's Cup, is a long, long way off. And as we could see from the Americans, our next door neighbours were right here. They had a horrific capsize rather the other day, and things can change very, very quickly for campaigns out here. They're very fragile boats, brand new class. We're all still finding our feet. We've done very little sailing, really, you know, in comparison to what you'd really want to do in these boats. But the great thing about having done well at the weekend was that it was a really good boost for the team, who worked so hard after the preliminary events that we had when we were struggling. I've never seen a team work as hard. And I think the really great thing about it is we saw the team, even though times were tough and adverse, the team really came together and gelled well. They were very professional, from the designers to the shore crew, boat builders, the sailing team, everyone stuck together, knuckled down, and I think that was the best thing about having a really, really good weekend, the weekend gone. But we start racing again this weekend. I'm talking to you, it's Wednesday here, and we have, because the Americans are going to be out for the rest of this stage of the event, we have 2 races, one on Saturday, one on Sunday against the Italians. If we can win one of those, we go through to the next stage. So fingers crossed. Italians are sailing really well though. In general, they're definitely tough to beat. We had to come from behind to beat them the other day on Sunday. So it certainly won't be easy. Their speed's pretty much the same as ours in most conditions. So. But we're really looking forward to it, and it's great to know now that we have a boat we can compete with. Anyway, great that you guys are watching. Send us any questions you want. You know, more than happy to send more of these messages to you. And I'm definitely missing Leamington, and looking forward to getting back there when I can. Hopefully, if things go really well, you never know, maybe we can bring the cup back there one day. But hey, we'll see. We're trying for Great Britain, and certainly I'm a very proud Leamington person too, so I always carry that with me wherever I am, and certainly down here. Take care, and speak to you soon. Cheers, bye.
So that was just a little soundbite from Matt Cornwell, who's the rules advisor, and we'll just now flick into the rest of the presentation, which is the opportunity for us to get an insight into Team Ineos Team UK and their perspective on what the America's Cup means and some learning.
The America's Cup is all about match racing, 1 versus 1, boat on boat, helmsman versus helmsman. As a rules advisor for Ineos Team UK, I need to be on top of the rules that govern match racing in the America's Cup. And I'm going to show you some of those, plus some of the key principles of what it takes to win match races.
Just looking for a nice solid late to right turn, he will face us.
So, what is match racing? The big difference with match racing compared to what we normally do in yacht racing, or as we call it, fleet racing, is that match racing is just 2 boats on the race course, 1 versus 1. So unlike fleet racing, it's not just about getting around the race course as fast as you can, you just have to get around faster than the other yacht. So sometimes it's all about speed, speed, speed. Sometimes it's about trying to slow the other yacht down. The America's Cup course that you'll see here in Auckland is a Wynwood lure course. That means the boats start, they go upwind to the top mark, they go down, they do this a number of times before they finish back down at the bottom. The whole course is set by boundaries, perimeters that the boats cannot sail outside without getting penalised, which keeps the racing nice and close. But the real key thing that you'll see is there's something called a pre-start. So the boats actually enter a box 2 minutes before the start time, and they can jostle and wrangle against each other in the start box, trying to slow each other down again, maybe put penalties on each other, but to try and get in a perfect position to get a great start. They get off around that race course as fast as they can and faster than the other yacht. Because of the nature of the AC-75 and the huge wing foils precariously sticking out the side of the yacht, the umpires have devised a system that keep the boats clear from each other. And it's called the Keep Clear Border. It's a diamond shape around the yachts, virtual. We can see it in a computer software program, and that's how the umpires see it. Next up, let's talk about some of the key rules. Now, the first one is port starboard. The boat on port has to keep clear of the boat on starboard tack. Starboard tack, that's the wind coming from your right-hand side. Port tack, the wind's coming from your left-hand side. Starboard tack boat has right of way. Let's look at the boundaries, the perimeter of our race course. The boats get penalised if they go outside of these boundaries. It keeps the racing nice and close. Now, what happens if you break one of these rules? You get a penalty. Now, different to most penalties you get in yacht racing, which is a turn, which is pretty slow, we have a penalty system that keeps the racing nice and close. If you receive a penalty from the umpires, you have to get 50 metres behind the other boat. That's 2 boat lengths on these yachts.
Yep, thanks JBR, penalty cleared.
Thanks, Richard.
And how do we know if a yacht's got a penalty? On the back post on the yacht, you'll see a red flashing light. That means danger, danger. You've got to get 50 metres behind the other yacht now. One of the key differences with the umpiring that you'll see compared to normal yacht racing, where the umpires are in a boat chasing the yachts, watching the action, the umpires are actually on land in a booth watching a virtual version of the race course. It's a really, really accurate way of being able to umpire these races. So those are some of the key principles of match racing that you'll see here in the 36th America's Cup. It's a dark art and there's a lot to perfect, but that should give you a good idea of some of the things you're going to see out here in Auckland. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too.
Help you with an understanding of the history.
cheer.
So that's a very swift look at the history of the America's Cup. As it says, 170 years this competition's been going, and we haven't quite managed to nab a win for the Brits yet. But this Ineos Team UK have definitely got one of the best chances that we've seen. And I'm fingers crossed, as I'm sure you guys are, that they're going to bring it home. So the next little bit of video, and apologies, it's just all video, but it really does give us a best flavour for what's going on and understanding how they're seeing it. Is Giles Scott's a little idea and a little opportunity to show you a bit about the race courses and what the racing will actually be for the Cup in the next few weeks.
This America's Cup, unlike the last, there's multiple places that we could be racing at any given time, and I think from the organisers' perspective, they've been keen to have a lot of options in terms of where we can race in different wind directions. I think primarily to make sure that it's spectator friendly, and also they have good control over what the sea state is primarily for the racing. So if you look at the courses that we've been given, we have 5 courses, A, B, C, D and E. A is out in the Hauraki Gulf. It's very open, and I think it's unlikely to be used if we get windy northeasterlies, because the sea state will be very windy. Westerly, it'll be a good course. And then you have courses B and C, which are situated around North Head, which I think is where the majority of the racing will happen if we get the right wind directions, because it's a natural amphitheatre, will be great for the spectators, and the courses line up nicely with northeasterlies or southwesterlies or north or south breezes, so that they cover quite a wide range of the possible wind conditions. Of course, D runs west and east, so in a westerly or an easterly, that's probably their go-to. E is the course that they'll use if it's really quite windy from the north, from anything northerly northeast, but that's out past Brown Island. It's away from the city. I think they'll only use that if it's super windy. So as I say, there's lots of options. Each course brings its own little differences that we'll have to manage and get used to over the coming weeks.
So that gives us a little idea about what and where the courses will be. And as Giles said, there's a whole variety. And now we thought it'd be quite nice for you guys to have a little understanding about what goes on amongst the guys that are actually sailing the boat, and where they are in the boat and what their jobs are. And for that, we've got the benefit of a friend of a few of ours, Freddie Carr's going to run through in a little video now of what that all means.
Welcome to Auckland, Ineos Team UK's outpost in New Zealand, where we're challenging for the 36th America's Cup. I'm going to take you through the 11 crew positions on board our race yacht, Britannia. She's a 75-foot foiling monohull weighing 6 tons and can reach speeds of up to 60 miles an hour, all whilst flying on things about the size of an ironing board. So the first spot on the boat, our man from Wales, Bleddyn Mon, and he trims the big soft sail, the double-skinned mainsail, which is basically the engine of the boat. It's the thing that drives us through the water. He's effectively the throttle man, and he's got his Renshaw controller here. This has got plenty of gizmos and gadgets on it to trim the sail within an inch of its life and keep the roll of the boat absolutely perfect.
Here we go, trimming on, big lead on. There you go, here you go.
Okay, to the main man, Ben Ainsley, or as the sailing team call him, the governor. He's obviously driving the boat and all the calls come through Gov. He's involved in the speed loop, he's involved in the tactical loop, he's driving the boat around the course, and he's got a number of controls around him to help fly the boat perfectly and keep Britannia sailing at 100% at all times.
5 seconds to a turn up. Get in late now. Okay, start turning up here. Turning up.
So one spot further forwards, and this is where Giles Scott lives, our tactician. He steers the boat out of the manoeuvres, but the main job for Giles is to look at the race course, read the wind, look at the other boat, and paint the picture for the rest of the crew for the manoeuvres that are coming up next. He's using his displays powered by Codorus, talking about the boundaries, and he is getting the boat around the course in as shorter amount of time as possible.
Okay, ley lines just before boundary, little softer.
The pilot spot. This is the new spot in the America's Cup. This is the spot that is dedicated to flying the boat out of the water. They have their HMI and they have to lock in perfectly to their daggerboard to get the boat flying at the precise height where Britannia is working at her very best. A job where you have to be 100% focused the whole time.
Hey, my pitch if you want. Thanks for that.
Now we move into the horsepower section of the boat, into where the grinders hang out. Our first spot is where the trimmers are. They're trimmer grinders, but they're the lucky guys. They get to do the old school sailing. They're the only people on the boat who get to hold a rope, and they're operating a winch. They're involved in the trimming loop to get the boat going as fast as possible. Now we're at the very front of the boat in the trenches where the 4 main grinders operate. These guys are max heart rate for 25 minutes, moving the winches, moving the hydraulic pumps, making sure their boat has enough power to sail around the course as fast as possible. Each of the 4 grinders has a small component they're in charge of on the boat as well, but their main role is to sit at max heart rate and make sure the boat's ripping at all times. So that is our tour of Britannia, a boat built on purpose with all 17,000 individual parts getting us ready for a challenge of a lifetime.
So that was Freddie Carr giving us an idea about what is going on board the boat when we actually do the sailing. And now the next little bit of video is going to help us have an idea about how the boat actually works and a little bit more of the physics of sailing. So without any further ado, Miles can play the next one.
We are now in the new age of America's Cup racing. We are not floating, we're flying. The new AC75 racing boats will reach 60 miles an hour with no engine, travelling up to 4 times the speed of the wind. Lift is the same force a plane uses under its wings to take off and maintain flight. We want to foil because pushing a boat through water is harder than through air. So how do we get the boat up in the air and out of the water? We use exactly the same technology as an aircraft wing. Just as an aircraft wing will lift a plane up off the ground, the foils of an America's Cup boat will lift it out of the water. The foils of our America's Cup boat are more accurately called hydrofoils because they work in the water. The secret to both of them is the shape. Aerofoils and hydrofoils use their shape to guide the wind or water around them to generate the lifting force to get the planes or boats in the air. The double-skinned soft wing sail is our engine. The force it generates to move the boat at breakneck speeds is thrust. It works exactly the same way as an aircraft wing. It's just rotated to stand straight up rather than laid down flat. As the wind flows over the sail, it generates thrust in a forward direction. An aircraft needs an engine to push the air over its wings fast enough to lift it off the ground. The wing sail on our America's Cup race boat generates thrust from the natural wind blowing past it. The more the wind blows, the more we can catch to turn into thrust to push the boat forwards. When the boat's going fast enough, the hydrofoils will then be able to create lift to get the boat out of the water. And there you have it, the boat that flies.
So if you'd like to find out a little bit more information on that, if you go to the Ineos Team UK website, there's a STEM crew, which is a little bit of a place on the website that helps provide an opportunity for you guys to do some more learning. And we can provide the information on that later on. But the next bit is about what's going on in the future. So right now, to date, we are up to we've had the first round robin and the second round robin. And so far, Ineos Team UK have done really well. We've got 4 wins out of 4 races that we've done. And the last bit of racing was on Sunday. The next bit of racing we've got happening is this coming weekend, where Ineos Team UK raced in the first race against Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. And they then race in the third race, and then that's on the Saturday. And then on Sunday, they again race on the round robin. Now, unfortunately, because of the fact that American Magic and Patriot are being rebuilt, that means that there are actually only 2 races this weekend, as opposed to, you can see, there were meant to be 6. But the good thing for the Ineos Team UK is that they get to do more competition and more practice racing against some of their really, really tough opponents. And that will then put them into a position where they can then go into the semi-finals. And if Ineos Team UK win one more race, they will be directly into the semi-finals. So the next little slide just gives us a little idea about what next and what the opportunities are going forwards, and a little bit of an idea of what happened recently. So American Magic had a little unfortunate capsize, and this little video gives us an insight about why and how that will happen.
The opening days of the Prada Cup had everything. Drama, great racing, some surprise results, and it ended with American Magic fighting to save their boat, Patriot. Here's how it all unfolded. American Magic against Luna Rossa of Italy in the final race of the day. The Americans, with no victories yet in the Prada Cup, desperate to get a win before the weekend racing was over. By gate 5, the Americans were in command, and that's when disaster struck. A big gust after a difficult mark rounding, and there was no way back for helmsman Dean Barker and his boat. We'd seen capsizes before, but this one was different. Patriot was righted, but there was something very wrong. She appeared to be sinking. Well, this is a well-rehearsed operation, and we've seen it done a few times for real. And up she comes. Patriot is back up. Oh, look at the bow though, something's not right. That's semi-submerged there. The crew know it. They're going to have a look. Well, now it's all about keeping the boat afloat. They're going to try and inflate some floats under the bow to keep it up. Pumping the water off the boat to give them time to inflate the supports.
Okay, shall I tell you the thing? Let me get your...
Some of the other teams have come in to help now. So the Emirates Team New Zealand support boat is there. The American Magic crew trying to do their best. There's Peter Burling, winner of the last cup, cutting something away, helping the opponents. Real America's Cup community feel and spirit here. not something we'd be used to talking about in past years. Local Coast Guard helping out with their pumps. Looks like the boat's stabilised now. Helmsman Dean Barker giving some instructions, the Luna Rossa crew helping out as well there. Well, they don't want to lose another challenger, do they? There's only 3 of them already. Looks like things have been stabilised on the waters off Auckland here. The boat is safe. But how much work are they going to have to do to get it ready for the next round robins? That is the big question. Those begin next Friday. They have 4 days of very hard work ahead of them. So what else happened on day 3 of the round robins in the Prada Cup? Well, race 1 was Luna Rossa against Ineos Team UK, the British as yet unbeaten. During the race, a large wind shift led to the race being abandoned, and the 2 teams tried again. Course reset. Teams chose opposite sides. Every time they crossed, the race remained close. There seemed little to split the 2. Gate 2, Luna Rossa had the slenderest of leads, 7 seconds ahead. The British closed the gap, and by gate 4, they'd gone ahead, well ahead, 24 seconds ahead. There was little the Italians could do to get back now, and Ineos scored their 4th victory out of 4. So after 3 days racing in the first set of round-robin races, this is the leaderboard, and who would have thought we'd be looking at this? Ineos Team UK, after a disastrous warm-up campaign before Christmas, they've revolutionised their boat and they've come back to dominate this Challenger Series.
So guys, that is the end of the presentation, but I hope you enjoyed that. We've got some excellent questions that people have been putting whilst been going on here, and I'm just going to go back now and give everybody a bit of a perspective on some of the answers to those. So the first question was from Freddie and Felix, and was, what happens if you're miles in the lead and pick up a boundary penalty? Do you still have to get 50 metres behind? And yes, Freddie, Felix, when you get a penalty still is the 50 metres. So you need to slow down and slow down by 50 metres, as that is the penalty, and it applies if you make an infringement. Next question was from the webs. Does the race committee alone decide which race course is used on any given day, or can the defenders choose? It is my belief that, and we'll double check, but basically there's an independent race organisation which run the racing. So they're independent of any bias that the defenders may have in wanting to race in certain conditions. And that's all agreed between the challengers and the defenders prior to start of racing, so that there's a fair expectation and knowledge of what conditions they're going to race in. So it is my belief, I will double check, but that we have an independent race organisation.
Yeah, it's Ian Murray that does it every day.
Ian Murray, who's an ex 18-foot skiff sailor from Australia, and he's currently the Olympic team manager for the Australian team. He is the race officer for this event, so he makes the decisions. None of the teams have anything to do with whether it is the right wind or the wrong wind or where to sail or whatever, other than what all of the 4 teams have agreed prior to starting the whole competition. So thanks for that, Miles. Amelia Hutchinson, why can't women compete in the Prada Cup? There's no reason why women can't compete in the Prada Cup. It is not a gender-specific thing. So Amelia, please do go and try and get involved in the future, because we need more of that gender equality in sailing. And that's also why in Olympic sailing there is now absolutely equal female to male participation in the next Olympics in Tokyo, and it will maintain forevermore. There's also some really, really good activity going on through the Magenta project. And I know Miles Seddon, who's been helping us with the presentation this evening, has also done some great work in the past with Team SCA, which was an all-female participation in the Round the World race a few editions ago. So there's plenty of opportunities: offshore racing, inshore racing, match racing, and if you're good enough, the people who get to go and represent the America's Cup are the best sailors in the world. So become the best and you'll get involved. Harry West, what caused the hole in American Magic? Well, as you saw from that piece of video, the boat fell or jumped out of the water to quite a height, and when it crashed down on the water surface, as you all know, if you fall into a swimming pool from height, it hurts quite a lot. Well, the boat got hurt pretty badly because when it crash landed, it crashed on its side. If it lands flat, then generally the structure is designed to take that. But when it landed on its side, the impact of the side of the boat hitting the water on the corner of where it landed managed to be so much pressure on that panel in the bottom of the boat that it actually broke the skin of the boat between the structures inside the boat, the ribs and the stringers, and that popped that panel of material out of the boat. Now, some of you and your parents may have seen some other bits of video which showed an actual piece of carbon being lifted out of the water by some of the support vessels, and that was the piece of material that was crashed out, which was the impact meant it crashed out of the boat. So that, my belief is, it wasn't a battery, because they're all fully structurally integral, solid in the boat. But as Geoff said, it was structural, internal structure and a frame, and the water hit it so hard. So the internal structure, yeah. So Amelia says the internal structure cut through the hull when it smashed down the side. What other cause? It's fine when it lands flat. Yeah, absolutely. And there's just a few other people just commenting around that. There's a point from Ben Anderson. Yes, once they went around the mark, a massive gust hit, and it said in the PowerPoint when they went around the mark, they tried to let the main out, but the leeward runner was not released, and the main stuck. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that were in play, and having listened to the press conference that Terry Hutchinson made after the incident for American Magic, there were lots of different things that all came together that meant that their boat capsized. The runner maybe is a little influence. The fact that the gust went from 18 to 23 knots very quickly. The traveller position was well down, and therefore there wasn't much main sheet that could be eased, because there's only a certain amount of range of main sheet that can be released when the main sheet is released, because the main sheets run on hydraulics. All sorts of things meant that it just was an unfortunate situation. And the guys, as Terry Hutchinson said in the press conference, he still has complete trust in the team. Their team is going to be bigger and better and stronger as a result of this, and they'll learn from it and gel together and be a better unit. And he has complete trust in Dean Barker to do an even better job in the future. Last question so far from Robin. What did Team Ineos do to change their performance since December? Well, from all the interviews I've listened to, and please, anybody else, if I don't mention something that's important, please pick up on it. But there's a whole lot of things that they changed. Their main focus of change was around reducing the drag. And the drag is, if you drive along in your car with your parents driving, you put your hand out the window and you put your hand flat to the wind, there's a lot of resistance of force on your hand. If you put your hand pointing in the direction like parallel with the ground, there's very little drag. So what they've been trying to do is reduce the amount of extra and unwanted drag that they've had on their boat compared to the other teams have been running. And that's come down a lot to the foils that Freddie Carr described as the ironing boards. They have these foils that are immersed in the water, and they have to be super, super efficient at creating lift and super efficient at reducing drag, being low drag surfaces, to be able to get the boat up out of the water and to foil in the really light winds, and not to lift out of the water too much when it is too windy. I hope that answers your question, Robin. Does anybody else have any other questions at this stage? It's great if everybody wants to go unmuted and ask questions using their microphones. We're more than happy to try and help answer some questions. Maybe if Miles has some better answers than I have, then he can chuck in. But anything else? Anybody else?
I can probably just add a little bit to what Ineos found, having talked to a couple of the guys down there. They, straight after the December regattas, the Christmas regatta, they went out with video cameras on the foils, and they found that the foils, instead of having a nice flow of water going over them, there were certain parts of the foils that at certain speeds were what we call cavitating, so they were getting air bubbles on them. So they weren't having any effect, and those air bubbles were slowing the boat down and stopping the foils from working. So if any of you are extremely eagle-eyed, you'll see that whilst they haven't actually changed the foils that they're using since the Christmas regattas, they have painted them to disguise a few changes they've made, slight changes they've made. They haven't changed the physical foil, they haven't totally remade it. They've made some modifications. So they painted the foils to modify the changes. And they have, you'll see right where the foil fits onto the hull, onto the arm, on the underside of the foil, so the bit that sticks up and faces you when you're looking at the boat, there's a little bubble there, which is kind of there now to break up those air bubbles and to help the flow stick onto the foil a lot better. So quite a lot of work done from Mercedes GP on analysing that, and it seems to be that combined with a few other changes to the rig as well that that's helping get the mainsail working. But those are the big things. Yeah, and Amelia said, you know, there definitely been some activity on the rig and the sails, and you know, and a bit with all the underwater appendages. So you know, there's been a lot of work done by those guys, and you know, we should send all our messages of enthusiasm and encouragement as we possibly can to the Ineos social media sites to try and give them our very best going forwards. Certainly we've benefited a lot this evening from having a little bit of an insight into their world. Thanks very much to Miles for helping, and if anybody has any further questions, get onto your fleet captains or your coaches, and if you have anything specific, get us some questions and we can try and get some answers. But have a great Wednesday evening. Please everybody stay safe, respect the government's rules, and make sure you're keeping your family safe. And we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday when we'll have Ian Williams, who's multiple match racing world champion.
Thank you. Bye.
Giving us another talk at that stage. So Ian, hopefully we'll be able to talk a little bit more match racing so it's still current and relevant.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you, Dr. Ben.
See you. Oh, Stu.
Yeah.
Thank you. One of the things that I picked up on with all of this, and would be really good to do at some point, is the communication side.
Yes,
because the boats that are doing well are the people that are communicating well. And you look at Ben and Giles, and they're just so far ahead of what everybody else is doing.
Exactly. That was one thing I must admit just slipped my mind just then as we were summarising, but it's something that really very much came out of the talk that Saskia did last Wednesday.
Right, I missed
was.
that one.
Yeah, but Saskia's one about the FX Olympic campaign, and Ben's very, very much on the money. The communication between Ben and Giles and the trimmers and
they're
all the guys on the boat is so much ahead of some of the other guys.
And
if you look at the capsize in the American Magic boat, part of the reason that happened could be construed as being an issue on communication about what the right thing to do was early enough. And they made the decision and they stuck with their decision, but actually they had some really good input from Paul Goodison in that process that maybe didn't quite get taken at the right time.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks, Ben. That's really, really good point.
Didn't
Nice.
they say,
Well, everybody else,
Hugh,
great to see
Hugh?
you all. Thanks very much for joining in. Look forward to seeing
Hugh?
you again in the future. If you're into Virtual Regatta Saturday evening, and if you're not, which is no problem at all, you have plenty of screen time, then we'll see you again next Wednesday.
Thank
Ian
you.
Williams.
Well done. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
No worries.
Nice one, Hugh. I'll catch
Oh,
you
well
later.
done, buddy. Thank you very much for your help. Really appreciate
That's
it.
all right. I don't know what happened at the start. That was just bizarre. Suddenly everything crapped out. It's been doing it all day, and then
And
suddenly
yesterday.
it came good again. So thank
And
God for that.
Oh. Well, the video worked out pretty much okay, I thought.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a little bit glitchy, but
Yeah, there's a little bit of time lag between sort of you and me, and that's part of the Lanzarote internet pipe that's dodgy, but it was fine. Seemed to work well.
good.
Thank you,
Nice.
Hugh. That was very
Fantastic.
good.
Thanks very much. Thanks for you. And we'll be okay. Cool. Well, let's
you,
now
Hugh.
stop
That's really
videoing,
good.
and we'll put this up online in the next day or so.
We'll be keeping your camera off.